So today, with all my friends at FaveQuilts.com, I'm really excited to show you how to thread a mechanical sewing machine. And this is a great mechanical sewing machine, as most are. It's strong, it sews through even the heaviest of fabrics with ease, and it sews fast. 1,000 stitches a minute this one goes. So one thing that you want to know, most sewing machines thread from right to left. And just a series of thread guides leading through tension discs and up into a thread take-up lever, and then down again into the needle, and any thread guides or little spindles that you need to put the thread through to guide it. And I just wanted to show you how easy it is, and then we'll go into the bobbin. But on this sewing machine right here you have the spool pins, and these are the pins that will hold your spools of thread. And I could hold two on here if I wanted to have a bobbin thread ready to go to wind bobbins, or if I'm sewing with twin needles, I would want to have two spool pins. And no spool caps for this machine, so you're not going to need to secure these spools in place with anything. But here's our first guide right here, and it's a little curly Q. And I'm going to walk around to the machine in a second just to make it easier. But then taking a look at all the guides, here's one, and this guide is also used to wind bobbins when you get to that. But then let's look over here, see if there are any guides, and there's one right here, a curly Q. And then we're going to make our way through the tension discs, and you have to go through tension discs sometime in the threading process before you get to the thread take-up lever. Now before you go through the tension discs, which just happen to be visible on this machine, you want to make sure that your presser foot is lifted. And usually that's done with a little lever, and on my machine it's right here in the back. But you just make sure that it's lifted, so you release the tension discs and you allow the thread to pass through easily. So you just go ahead and go through. And there happens to be just one little springy catch right here on the side of my machine. And you definitely want to make sure and catch that before you go into the thread take-up lever. Now usually you want to have this thread take-up lever in the uppermost position, which can be reached by rotating your wheel right here. And just watch until it gets up, up, up. Nice and up. You can go ahead and go through it with your thread. And for this machine, there's no slot to just kind of push and guide your thread into. You actually have to take the end and thread it through the hole. Make sure you still cut yourself in that guide, and then go down. Make sure you haven't wound yourself up there. I did. Through the take-up lever and back down. And watch yourself when you're threading to make sure that you don't encounter any little catches in your thread. If I had tried to sew and I hadn't noticed that my thread had gotten caught right here, I could have broken the needle. I definitely wouldn't have sewn right, and I might have been, I don't know, agitated, aggravated, and I might have even given up my sewing project. So, just take some time and look. Once you do this a couple times, it's a lot easier. And as you can see, I'm doing it from behind the machine, and it's not too hard. But noticing there are any thread guides that are right here in this area of the machine, and there is one that you want to make sure you get your thread into. And also usually on the needle bar or screw clamp, there's a thread guide that you want to go through. Just making sure your thread goes through all nice, and actually you go through from this side. And now comes threading the needle. So what you want to do is get some scissors. And it's always good to have your toolkit handy. And you always want to make sure you have a good pair of sharp scissors in there. But if you don't have an automatic needle threader, don't get discouraged. Just trim your thread nice and cleanly. Find the eye of the needle. Pass your thread through. It's just that simple. Now, there are various things, and make sure you don't twist your thread around the needle when you're pulling it through. That can sometimes happen, and I have done that. So I'm just going to go ahead and snip everything. Pull that thread out, because doing that can lead to trouble when sewing. And trust me, it's very discouraging when your needle breaks or your thread breaks. right in the middle of a seam. So just go ahead and pass it through the needle, and then watch this thread to make sure it doesn't get all caught up, all crazy. And usually in your presser feet there's a little notch where you can go ahead and guide your top thread through into the back. And now we have successfully threaded the top portion of this machine and into the bobbin. And on this machine, this mechanical machine, and most mechanical machines, and I hope you can see right in here, is a side oscillating bobbin, which can be kind of intimidating because they are different looking. They do require like 1 or 2 extra steps in threading, but not hard at all. So right here you can see nice metal contraption. It's very cool, and the bobbin is actually housed inside of this casing. So take a look and you'll see a little something that pokes out, a little guide, and you want to make sure that you put this in the right way when you put in your bobbin. And I'll make sure and show you a really good close-up of that. And you can see where the bobbin would actually sit, and take a look for any little grooves or guides where you can put thread through. And right here is one. So I know that my thread needs to go that way. And I can also see right into here where the thread is going to end up, a little spring-loaded thing that I want to make sure and get my thread through. And it looks like that's about it. So what you want to do is make sure that your thread is going clockwise. And draw the thread up through the guides, underneath any springy things. And make sure you hear them spring or see the thread go through. Yep, I see it. Now it's brought up and it's ready to be installed into the machine. So right here is another, and make sure you hold the bobbin in just in case, because it might want to slide out with the back of your finger. But right here is a little springy thing which makes it easy to hold this bobbin. Most metal bobbin casings do have this feature. So you're just going to go ahead and see how this protrusion is pointing up. I'm just going to go ahead and fit that right in. And you can see right here is a little groove. It shows you where this needs to end up. So I'm just going to go ahead and install the bobbin. I can see that it has lined up, and I'm going to bring out this thread tail. Make sure you leave yourself a thread tail out through the front of the machine into any grooves. You can see usually there will be one, so you know that it's the right place, and this can be freely moved. And so what you want to do is just hold your needle thread, go ahead and drop down, well, you don't have to drop down your presser foot yet, but hold your needle thread and rotate your hand wheel 1 rotation. Make the needle go up and down 1 time. And if you don't hear anything and you don't feel any grinding, chances are you've threaded it right. So now what I'm doing, and you can see with this top needle thread, I'm just going to tug back and bring up the bobbin thread, and using your scissors or something that you can put underneath, not your fingers, because you never want to put your fingers underneath that needle ever. You bring up the bobbin thread, and you can see how it's not in front of the machine anymore. It's coming up through the sole plate. So just bring both those threads to the back, and now I'm going to test out and make sure that I have threaded it right. And the only way you can do that is by sewing a sample. So I'm just going to go and grab some fabric. I'm just going to go ahead and drop down my presser foot. Check and make sure I'm set for a straight stitch on the machine, and let's see, right here is my stitch width, my stitch length, so I want to be on 0 for straight stitching. Right there, and length of 3 is good. I'm just going to go ahead and turn on the machine and give it some juice. And lift everything up, rotate my hand wheel to bring my needle up. Bring the threads back, do a little trim, and check. And check and see if you don't have any thread nesting, you have nice stitches on the front and back, you have successfully threaded your machine. And it's just that easy. If you have a sewing machine lying around in the basement or in the garage or in the attic or somewhere, that you get it out and you test it out and you see if you can get it to sew, because sometimes it's just that easy, and it's just that much fun to make these things go, and once you have them going, who knows what you'll make. So here's how to thread a mechanical sewing machine, and I'm so glad that all my friends at FaveQuilts.com asked me to make this video.